Hi everybody, I just got out of the store over there where I read from the new edition of O magazine. That stands for Oprah. I made a special trip just for that so I could review what I found on the cover of the magazine. Is always hungry? The surprising solution. And right away I jumped to conclusions about it, what their solution. And I said out loud in the store, the solution is to eat. But why did I jump to conclusions before reading the article? Well, it's because I've been into this scene for 7 years now. This is just about all you get. It's usually the same thing. Well, the same thing isn't working. The same people stay fat while people like me stay thin with no effort. So on to the article. He didn't actually write this article, but it's about the advice of David Ludwig, PhD and MD. Now that's a different video. That means doctor. They're not experts. They don't study nutrition or diet. And from what I've seen and talked about in my videos, along with Happy Healthy Vegan, debunking the doctors every week, doctors are not who you want to turn to for anything. You want to be healthy so you don't have to see a doctor. So the story continues, and it said, for the first few years of my career, my advice was low fat, high carb. And what he claimed about that advice, he said his patients, I want to say, they gained weight, because that's the kind of rhetoric, manipulation, the kind of ways these people talk when they're bullshitting. But I'm jumping ahead of myself here. I don't mean to call him a bullshitter so soon in the video. But if you're wise to all this diet stuff, you can see that coming. If you're surprised that I said that, well, you're just not up on stuff. You need to get around more, not just read magazines. So since he thought this diet wasn't working for his patients, he changed his advice. He flipped it around. The article said that he is flipping traditional diet advice and recommending a diet that is low in carbohydrates and high in fat and protein. Wonder where he got that idea from. Does that sound familiar to you? Well, I got news for the writer of that article. This is not Ludwig's idea that he's just come up with. So Ludwig goes on to say his patients started losing weight, and so did he. But hold on a second here. He's giving people a certain diet and then looking at the outcome. I get called unscientific for doing that. And isn't that how the China study was debunked? You know, the study that studied millions of people long term. Speaking of long term, this diet of Ludwig, people lose weight short term. And that's what he's noticing. I think what happens is when doctors' patients, people who are given this advice, they lose weight and they don't come back. So we don't see the long-term effects, because if people put the weight back on, which they do, they don't go back to the same person, the same doctor who gave this bad advice. So in the article, the next couple paragraphs perfectly described the Atkins diet, phase 1 and 2. Now, this goes back to the 70s. And then in the 90s, it was the new Atkins revolution. what happened to the old one? What was wrong with that? And now today we got paleo, and we got keto, and Western price. Why do they keep changing the name? Okay, I want to quickly go over why this low-carb diet works short-term and not long-term. And this has been proven over the years here by the people doing it that it works short-term. But if you look at their calorie intake, it only works because they're eating less calories. Even if they're not trying to, they end up eating less calories because of what the body does. It turns off the body. It's a turn-off. The body doesn't want high-fat protein and a lot of meat. We're not natural meat eaters. And you might say, well, that's how a lot of diets work. Isn't that a good thing that it does that? This is how I knew that the article I was about to read was something I'd want to make a video about and complain about. That's why I brought my camera to the store, because this is the common approach, which is failing people. The lack of calories is also why the diet fails long term, and why people are only getting fatter. Because when you deprive yourself of calories, the body only goes deeper into fat storage mode. The real reason the body stores fat, the main reason, there's many reasons, but the experts out there selling diets, making money, they don't want to tell you the big reasons. This low-carb philosophy that everyone's buying into, it seems, has been debunked for years now. It was about 2 or 3 years back. T. Colin Campbell wrote a book debunking it. McDougall debunked it. Also Durian Ryder and myself for the last year and a half or so. I'll put up a video here, random video. The keto video was just really in-depth. Even though it's called keto, it's the same concept of why starving yourself of calories and carbohydrates makes your body store more fat. The only way to keep your body from storing the fat it now wants to store more is by starving yourself more and more and more, which is what people are doing. But you can't keep that up forever, and you don't want to keep it up forever, because you're starving the fuel for your life. You don't need to do that. You can eat more than you need, and the body will not store it unless you give it a reason to store it. I'm going to make another video about Oprah's comments, because I hear that the magazine contains her overall big picture for weight loss, what she's learned over the years. She even said, I saw a quote of her saying she tried the low-carb diet and didn't work for her because it increased her cravings, which is the opposite of what this article is saying. And it's in her magazine. So can someone explain that to me? Low-carb, keto, Western price, bullcrap. This is the truth. This is what it looks like. Please give us a thumbs up for this video. Share, subscribe. And this is almost, this is just out.